And here you'll see the cutter head and the pilot there. Get it going. Here's the little setup that I've got right now for case trimming. Just kind of threw it together. This is just a regular old cardboard box to get my drill motor at the right level. This is a flex shaft. I think it's Ryobi. Got it from Home Depot. Just got it chucked up and it lets me flex that. I just welded an old drill bit that has the lock system onto this. You can get this actually an adaptation unit that it gives you a new shaft and it doesn't have the handle. But anyways, I put a metal plate right here. This is actually the cover for a Honda 1.5 Civic DX, 1.5 liter single cam engine, to one of their ECUs. That's what that's covered for, but that allows me to slide my drill motor easily without wearing out the box or anything. And I use anti-seize, just regular old anti-seize, as a lubricant. And so I'll clip that in, I'll run my pilot in just a little ways, and then I'll secure the back. And usually what I will do is, after I've trimmed it a little bit, I'll loosen up a little bit and then tighten it again to let it spin just a hair, in case it is sitting in there a little bit sideways. I'll show you the other side. Alright. Lock it in. I get my pilot pushed in there. See how that is right now. And of course it'll have to be deburred. I found it's definitely easier to get your pilot and everything in there if you're spinning a little bit. And the other thing is, when you're doing it like this, if you just run that pilot all the way in to where it needs to be, right now those teeth have cut into that brass, and a lot of times it's hard to keep it from spinning. It's hard to lock it down here because those teeth have dug into that brass already. If you already have it spinning some, it doesn't tend to do that as bad. That's why I like a geared drill motor, because it'll keep it spinning after I've let off the trigger. And you can see that flex shaft is not really much of a, it doesn't really hamper me too much, because I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it with there. The teeth, the cutting bit, it does its job. I put a little bit of pressure, but not much. Those teeth will cut it on their own. And then every once in a while, I'm going to make sure you check. Even though you had it set, always check, because it's possible for these adjustments to slide. And how this works is no one's ever seen one of these. You got two collars here. This one's threaded onto this one, and each one of them have an Allen key for a set screw in them. And whenever you undo the Allen key in this outside one, it will allow this whole little unit to slide up and down on this shaft, and that lets you set your basic length. Then once you've set this one and tightened the set screw, this is threaded onto that, and you can tighten or loosen this in relation to this, and it will tighten or loosen, or it will lengthen or shorten the cut. That's where you get your final adjustment there. And so what I'm looking for on these is about 50,000, well, 1750, and that's what I've got. So still running good with that. You'll see here, once this runs up to here, it bottoms out, and that's how I get my length. If I wanted to change my length, I'd loosen this set screw and rotate that one way or the other to lengthen it or shorten it. And it is an older unit, but it works alright. I'll zoom in on that as I tighten it, or as I go. You'll see what I mean there. That's my two different adjustments. And here you'll see the cutter head and the pilot there. Get it going. So in that you can see it didn't cut all the way around. It only cut on part of it. On the ones that I catch that are like that, I'll try and re-chuck them and see if I can clean it up again. I've got a couple of other ways. Yeah, that cleaned it up a little bit more. Well, let me get it into field of view there. That cleaned it up a little bit more, not all the way. I've got other ways of doing these by hand that's a little bit more precise, but for loading for the masses, I'm not worried about it. And what you see back there in the back here are other pilots for different size cases. And basically what you've got is a little lathe here. That's really what you've got. Something that I wanted to address with you, just in case any of you guys are new to it and are just learning a little bit. Whenever you measure your overall case length here, you don't want to measure until after you have sized it and deprimed it. It's not about the depriming, but it's about the sizing. Because whenever you size it, even just neck sizing it, you're going to lengthen it. Just because it squeezes it down and it has to do something. And what that something is, whenever you make this smaller in diameter, it makes the whole thing longer. So don't measure it until after there. On a 223 for a bolt action, a bolt gun, like a Mossberg MVP or something like that, you're going to have different dimensions to worry about than on a service rifle, an AR or something like that. If you're running an AR, basically what you're dealing with is your maximum case length, like this, is going to be about 1 inch and say 1.76. 1 inch and 760 thousandths. But the way that'll read would be, you've got your 1, and this is on the way to 2, and 60 would be, you've got 1760. So anywhere from there to there in the 50, that's what they say is the acceptable range. You'll get some, especially after they've been sized and everything, that'll be all the way down here. They'll be short. That's fine. They'll run. They'll work. But when you get ones that are over 60, that's when you definitely have to trim them. What I usually do is after I've sized, I'll set my calipers to say, I don't know, say 54. 1754. And then if you haven't used dial calipers very much, on top here, even if you've got digital ones, you'll have a lock. Now that's locked. So what I can do is I can just run in here, and now it's a go no-go gauge. And I know that anything that won't go or is really tight, I want to throw in my trim bend. Anything that slides in between there, I know it's good to go. It just needs to be cleaned. And that's how I decide what needs to be trimmed and what doesn't. See, let me loosen this. I'll show you here. Right here, this one. Oh, and you set your trim to 1750 is where you're going to trim to. No reason to bother trimming if you don't trim to that. Right now, this case, oh, sorry, tired. This case is running 1779 approximately. 1 inch, 779 thousandths. Now, when I run it through my trimmer, now we are 1750. Perfect. Exactly where I have it set at. Exactly what I'm shooting for. So anyways, that's how you set up your trimmer and how you do that. This is how I do my deburring right now. I got this and I'll chuck it up into the drill press and just go in one at a time as it spins and let it get the inside. And then once I have gone through my batch on the inside, I'll remove it. And I've got one of the Lee little knurled deburrs with a slot in it. I've got it chucked up inside the chuck there, and it lets me get the outside. And my chuck, the jaws are far enough back into it that they're not sticking out to where they would grab my fingers. Just as long as I stay away from the area up here where the teeth for the key. But just run it up there, and I mean, it's not perfect, but it works. They've all got lube on them from being sized, so I'll usually hold a brush here and go through the inside, and then they end up going right back in the ultrasonic cleaner after this step, and that removes all the remaining brass and lube off of them, and then they're ready to reload. That's how I do that. And here in a second I'll show you what that looks like whenever I pull it out of there. feel it when it starts to cut the burr off. You can tell the difference between whenever it's just up there and the burr's not gone, whenever that burr's gone, you can tell by the way that it pulls on your hand. Alright, now what I was doing there was getting the outside of those. I was getting the outside part, and I'll show you, if you're not familiar with the Lee tool that I was using. That's the tool that I was using. And this tool's set up where you can use it by hand, and you can do the inside or the outside of the case. If you have a 1/2 inch chuck, a good 1/2 inch chuck on your drill press, you can chuck that up in there and do it either way. I've actually got 2 drill presses, so what I was doing was I had this in my smaller drill press because it's a smaller shank, and I chucked this up in the other one. Now I've actually got a new setup on the way that will still go in the drill presses, but it'll cut a little better, and that should be here next week sometime. And I got another run of 223 brass that I'm going to try it out on. So anyways, now this brass here will go into ultrasonic cleaner, which you probably hear running, and then we'll be loading.